Hard hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Obviously, everyone's interested in the Lillard stuff here. The Athletic reporting that the Celtics, Warriors, and Lakers could be in the mix for Lillard here, and I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense. I was intrigued last time they were connected to him, and I think there was some legitimacy to that pursuit last time. It would have been a more difficult addition then. It probably would have required Jaylen going out the door, but now, given that the Bucks waived him yesterday and stretched his contract, they're paying for him effectively here, and he has the chance, and I know that was in the reporting there too, that it's a unique opportunity for him to get paid by Milwaukee and then just focus on the basketball fit here going forward. And when I think about these three teams, the Lakers are trying to win now with LeBron, Luka. Lillard's probably out for most of the season. They're trying to find a center. I don't think this makes a ton of sense for them. The Warriors, it makes a little more sense.
Real quick, so are we, for the record. So are the Celtics looking for a center.
True. Very true. But, and we'll discuss it in a little bit. I feel like this year is becoming less pertinent than the year after that when Tatum comes back. So I think compared to the Warriors, compared to the Lakers, there's a stronger case for bringing in a guy who's going to be out for most, if not all of this season, than two teams that are trying to make the most of LeBron's little time that he has left and Steph Curry's remaining time in his career. And those are expensive teams too. And again, Celtics are too. But I feel like this is a good situation for him to rehab for a year alongside Tatum, get back on his feet the following year, have the Bucks pay for it, and all of a sudden you're building around Lillard, Brown, and Tatum for at least the short term following this upcoming season.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little more lukewarm on it, Bobby.
Okay.
Because, if you think about, let's just say if Lillard does come in, and you mentioned how he and Tatum could rehab together and, maybe miss the entire season. This is kind of the gap year for the Celtics. If you look ahead to the 26-27 season, and you've got Tatum, Brown, White, Pritchard, fingers crossed, Hauser still on the team. I don't think the Celtics are going to move him, but let's just say he's on the team. And then you throw Lillard in there. I don't know about the fit. I'm not sure I love it. And at that point, like Damian Lillard, we talk about Jason Tatum. I think we all expect him to come back and be really good, be Jason Tatum again. He's in his mid to late 20s. Damian Lillard's in his mid 30s. So it kind of remains to be seen how effective he is post Achilles. And that is even before you get into how he'll fit with the current roster. I think you could look at it one of two ways. Number one, the Celtics have really good defenders everywhere, specifically with those guys I mentioned, White, Brown, and Tatum. So you can kind of protect Lillard on that side, almost like the Hawks have done with Trae Young, with surrounding him with really good perimeter defense and a couple of bigs to protect the rim, and you can kind of mitigate his limitations on that side. So you can look at it that way, or you could look at it, kind of the way I'm thinking about it, which is our offense is going to be pretty good already. Do we need to bring in, a defensive liability who's going to need the ball a lot when, we have three pretty ball dominant players in the first place? And I think this season we're going to see Derek White take on a lot more of that role and prove that he's really effective in it. That's something I think, I have wanted to see more, and I think a lot of Celtics fans feel the same way, is Derek White getting more opportunities handling the ball. For me, if we're going to bring in Lillard and take this gap year, it would have to be on a pretty team-friendly contract. So that's kind of how I look at that. But with the whole news, it's kind of a throwback, right? The wave and stretch. We haven't seen that in a while.
Who was the last wave
brought
and
up
stretch?
as a possibility for KP, and that obviously didn't happen. But I feel like we haven't seen the stretch in a long time.
Did Blake get stretched by the Pistons? That's the one that comes to mind. I don't remember. They might have just waived him and taken the hits in those 2 years he had left when they got rid of him. The last wave and stretch. I mean, it happens all the time with small contracts.
Yeah, right.
Like they'll just sprinkle the 90,000 over a bunch of years or whatever those minimum guys make. Sometimes they'll put them out over like 7 years, but the last significant wave and stretch. I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Hit us
when
in the
you're talking at
comments
one
if you got
point.
if you got a
Yeah.
good
Let us
example of the wave and stretch.
let us know if you can remember one. I don't think it was Blake, but that's the name that comes to mind. On Bobby Bonilla Day, I did hear that. It's not going to be quite that long. I think it's 5 years here for Lillard, where he's going to make. And let's spell it out: $22 million a year for the next 5 years for Lillard. Bucks are going to pick that up. I think there's probably at most this offseason a full mid-level for him. But again, is a team that has a full mid-level going to do that for a guy who's not going to play this year? I doubt it. Like, I think Miami could probably offer that without checking. And that was the first team that came to mind, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was interested in going there. That's where he wanted to live. That was when Jimmy Butler was there and they looked more like contenders. So obviously with his name not being on the list this time around, or their name not being on the list, I think that's probably in the past. But they could definitely pay him the most now or next year potentially. And that's my question is he going to sign now and just get in the door on some team and start connecting with teammates and rehabbing in that team's facility and all that? Or is he going to wait till next summer when there's probably more cap space around the league, when there's probably more clarity on where every team's going to be? And that's the big question with the Celtics right now is where are they going to be a year from now? Because we'll get to all the moves they've made in a second here. But I don't see a ton more flexibility for them next season unless they end up moving one of those core pieces. They're still pretty expensive. They're still building around 2 supermax guys. They still, as you mentioned, Drew, don't have a long-term reliable center at the moment. So in terms of going on to a team late in his career and having a ready-made chance to win, the Celtics are up there among the teams he could potentially join here. But there might be more clarity for him next summer in terms of, all right, where am I going that's going to give me the best chance to win, and what kind of contract do I need to take to set that up?
And the other factor here is, everyone's favorite talking point of the offseason, which is that the East is wide open. And we'll see if that stays true heading into next season. I think, you're probably right about having a better idea going into next year than we do now. It's kind of seeing where the chips fall. Like, and who knows what's going to happen in the Eastern Conference this year. Like, you might see young ascending teams take a huge leap, like the Magic or the Pistons or maybe the Hawks, and all of a sudden going into next season.
I love the Hawks this year.
Yeah, they've had an amazing offseason. Give a lot of credit to their new GM, Ansi, I think is his name. He has done a magnificent job. And one of the best things to do if you're a new executive is just call up the Pelicans and see if you can please them. And they have managed to do that now 2 years in a row with 2 different front offices for both teams. But, the East being wide open, it's a fun talking point, and you can just say it if you need something to say. But has there been a star in the NBA who actually took that into account and went to an Eastern Conference team to avoid the West? I feel like the answer is no, and that's how we got here with the West being so much better. Like, maybe LeBron back in the day when he was leaving Miami, but he was already,
that's what I was going to say.
But he was already in the East,
Mm-hmm.
And then he stayed with the Lakers now for 8 years, which is crazy to say that this will be year 8 for him there. But he stayed with the Lakers. Kevin Durant wanted to go to a Western Conference team, as far as we know. Now he's with the Rockets. Like, we really haven't seen a star take that into account. And maybe Lillard would be the guy to do that, to stay in the Eastern Conference. It's
so weird how everyone's been. Is it the time zones or those? I do like West Coast time, but
yeah,
I don't know why.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just like, they see a more attractive situation, a better roster, and so they end up going to the Western Conference because there are more of those in the West than the East. I don't know, but if I were Damian Lillard, why would I want any part of the West right now?
Definitely not. I don't see the Lakers happening. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what their plan is. This whole LeBron situation is so strange right now, with him having a foot in and a foot out, it seems like, in terms of his commitment there. Or maybe that's how they're feeling about him. It could be the other way around. But I don't see that happening for that reason, even with Luka there. Warriors again, and we can get to Horford in just a second here. But the last thing I'll say about Lillard, I actually do like the basketball fit here. And I liked it last time around that we had this discussion. And the biggest thing to me, Drew, is think of how they use Tatum, where he's bouncing around screens, he's pulling up for threes, he's trying to draw the defense up. Lillard's the king of that. I don't think, other than Curry maybe, and Curry plays more off the ball, there's a better guy at pressuring the defense with long range threes around screens. And that can get Tatum in some different positions. You mentioned White. I think he's good playing on and off the ball. I think Lillard could play on and off the ball for this team. So I don't think he necessarily needs to be a central part of their offense, but he can be. And we'll see where he's at that age, coming off an injury. You have no idea, obviously, the combination of those two. I think everyone forgets with the ACL tear, too, that he had the blood clot situation as well, which was really scary there right before he went down with the Achilles. So he's gone through a lot over the last year, and next season he'll be 35. The season he comes back, he'll be 36. So that's the late stages of your career. Last year, I feel like he was generally who he's been offensively, but the defense is concerning there and was a big reason the Bucks struggled. So there's pros and cons to the basketball fit, but all I'll say to that is if he's going to be on a minimum, if he's going to be even on a mid-level here, and I think that's probably the most the Celtics can do now at the moment is clear out a little more cap, sign him to a mid-level for $5-6 million, and I don't know, would that be 2 or 3 years? I don't know if that's enticing enough for him, but if he would do that, I'm super intrigued by it. And obviously the most fun part about it is that he and Tatum are going through the same situation here and can support themselves. So that if I remember correctly too, they seem to have a good relationship, don't they? You'll see them chatting after games. And I think him and Jaylen as well have a pretty good relationship. So as uncompelling as the Celtics roster might be around those guys at this point, those two could play a role in recruiting him here.
Wait a minute, Bobby. You said just clear out some cap and then you can get Damian Lillard. How are the Celtics going to do that is the question.
Well,
like the Celtics, if they end up, actually adding the guys who have been reported, right? Minot and Garza, they're back over the second apron. So the whole idea of getting rid of Holiday and Porzingis was to get under the second apron. And now they're back over. And I understand you got to fill out the roster somehow, but what does that mean? Does that mean the Celtics can't keep Simons? Are they going to get rid of George Niang? Is my worst nightmare going to come true and Sam Hauser's going to be on the way out? I don't know what that's going to look like.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way. Let's
Yeah.
slide out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke an hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke